Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Dude, that's a little vibe right there.
It is. It is a good vibe. I don't know where you found that from, but I like it a lot.
Can't tell you all my secrets, baby. But Wednesday, welcome to the We Talking About Sports 2022 NCAA football. We've hyped the hell out of the NFL shows. But my man right here, welcome Mr. J. Mart. He is the college guru on the We Talking About Sports squad. So why don't you tell us a little bit about what makes you love this college game, Mr. Justin?
Well, college football is probably the first sport I really fell in love with. My dad, my uncle, his brother, big time Texas Longhorn fans. And from the jump, being a little kid, I was dripped out in Texas Longhorn stuff all the time. It was a family thing where we would make an effort together to go see Texas Longhorn football games once a year. So it's Texas Longhorns for me for the most part. I have, fallen in love with a little bit of another team, Ohio State, a little bit throughout the years, but it's Texas Longhorns for the most part. And it's just honestly, college football presents something that, professional sports don't, like the rivalries, the passion for your squad. It's just something that you won't see in the other levels of football. So I just love me some college football, man. Saturday mornings or something else at 11 a.m. when you're watching two Big Ten teams going at it, in the north and in the freezing cold. It's something different.
And what was the last time you and your family got out to a Longhorn game? Because
pre-COVID,
we're about 4 hours away from Austin. So pre-COVID, was it like every year you would go?
Every year we would make one game at least, usually around October.
Any particular team that you guys like to watch against the Longhorns?
We would always try to make like the Oklahoma State or Baylor games. My first ever game was against Texas Tech, a game that we won in the end. And that game was hilarious because, we had just left the stadium thinking, we're about to lose this game.
Yeah.
As we're walking away, we hear the roar of the crowd. We ended up kicking a field goal to win the game, and we didn't even get to see it. We're trying to beat traffic home, but you learn, Ron.
You were those people who the camera would focus on, and the commentators would say, looks like we have some Texas Longhorn fans heading for the exits early.
Yes.
And it was like you and your dad walking down the stands with your head held low.
Yeah, at the time I would wear these huge orange hair things, those fan hats like that were like afros. Yeah. Like I was decked out and tripped out Longhorn stuff,
Well, that's good, man. It looks like you're definitely have some good vibes going down memory lane. So I'm gonna let you just get into gig 'em. We already got a live comment.
Yeah, you know what, Irvin, we're gonna talk about the Aggies too, because I do have them in my top 10. So we'll talk about them.
All right. So what we're gonna do today, I'm gonna let Justin kind of take over. He's gonna give you guys a breakdown of his top 10 teams and some of the future predictions that he has. Won't be a long show, but we gotta give the college kids some shine, like Justin likes to say. So shine on, Justin.
All right. So let's get into this top 10. Now I'm gonna give you my personal top 10. It might not mirror what you see through the AP poll or ESPN poll, but this is how I see the top 10 right now in my eyes. And we're going to focus on 5 through 1. I'm just going to go through the list. Number 10, Notre Dame. Number 9, Oklahoma. 8, Baylor. 6, Michigan. 7, Utah. 6, A&M. 5, Clemson. 4, the numbers are all wrong. I already messed up. But Ohio State 3, Georgia 2, Alabama 1. Those are how I see the top 10. But let's work in to the top 5. And let's start with Irvin's team, Texas A&M. All right. So with A&M being in the top 5, this is where you can see the issue this year. They went out and got the best recruiting class they've ever had. How they got that recruiting class, that's been some controversial statements from Nick Saban say they bought all their players. Regardless, though, in the past years, only one team that went out and got the number 1 recruiting class didn't win the national championship within 4 years, and that was the Florida Gators. So you can see how important it is for A&M within these 4 years coming up to show some sort of result and some resolve and get a national title. Well, they've been a perennial 4-loss team in the SEC West. They are in trouble, giving Jimbo that big contract. They gave him a placeholder national title trophy. If they don't show results within these 4 years, they will be in trouble. We'll see.
Irv. I mean, obviously, Irv, we know him. He's a local product. Probably one of the best athletes that we've had, come out of not just Mission, but probably the Valley.
Him and his brother. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Jamar. So being, local guys, they did go to a Texas school. Talking about recruiting, is Texas A&M going and getting kids like him from Texas, or because they have such a great recruiting class, do you see them reaching out more?
So
out of Texas.
So they went out of Texas to get some of these players, and let's highlight where they got these players. They went smart, and in the SEC, the battle is won within the trenches, right? They got 8 5-star recruits, 8 of them. That's insane. 4 of those 8 come on the defensive line. So they're trying to build that war up front, stop the run game, control the battle on the defensive end. They went out and got some big hogs up at front for the defensive line. That's something you want to build from. You want to build within. You don't want to build from the outside. So A&M was smart with the recruiting and who they got. They just named their quarterback, Haynes King. He was like a 4-star prospect in 2020. He did get named yesterday their starting quarterback. That quarterback room is still a little iffy. It took them a long time to name their quarterback. He was supposed to be their starting quarterback since last year. He got replaced, and that kid ended up leaving A&M to go to Auburn. I think his name was Calzada or something along those names. I might be butchering that last name.
Yeah, man.
They are going to be returning. What's that?
Nowadays, with this whole, the transfer portal, you can have a kid quarterback play 3 different, colleges before his college career is over.
Yeah, definitely. Because his transfer portal, there's no longer waiting where you have to redshirt a year, nothing like that, which is going to change the landscape for recruiting. We'll talk about that later, though. As far as the running back room, Evan Stewart will be starting for them. He's he'll be at the receiver. He's one of the 5-star prospects that's going to be starting on the receiving core right away. So not only did they get guys that were going to be, good for the next 3 years at least before they head off to the NFL, they got guys who are going to make a difference from the get-go. So you like to see that out of A&M. The potential is there for them. They did beat Alabama last year. They could remain within this top 5 or jump into the top 4 to see a playoff spot. That's why they have them in 5. I hope we don't see a continued path where they lose another 4 games again in the SEC West and we see them out of the top 10, because that is also a potential for A&M.
Well, good starting spot at number 5 for A&M, like you said, and they have potential to stay there, if not, go to 2, 3, maybe even see them at the top of the list. So who else do you have writing out your top 5?
Let's go next to Clemson. And here we start with the biggest question mark, where you don't want to have the biggest question mark: quarterback play. They went and got that kid after Sunshine went to the pros. I forget his name.
Trevor Lawrence.
Trevor Lawrence. They went and got this kid from California, DJ Ugalalele. That's another butcher to his last name. It's a Hawaiian last name.
I like that one.
They went and picked him up. They thought he would be the next Trevor Lawrence for them. He had just abysmal play last year for Clemson. Now, what Clemson went and did was they went and got Clay Kubnick out of Austin. He's a 5-star recruit. He's going to be ready to go if DJ doesn't come through. DJ didn't come through right away last year for them when they played Georgia in that first week 1. And we kind of saw hey, DJ might not be the guy after all. He's just a 6'4" dude with a strong arm. He's not really talented as they want him to be. So look out for Clemson. Clemson on defense, they're almost 2-team deep, man. They got guys that can play, start anywhere else. That's one of the best defenses that's going to be coming into the country. They play in the ACC. They're not going to have a lot of trouble as far as keeping their spot to make the top 4, to make that playoff. There's not going to be a lot of pushback. Maybe you might see some from North Carolina, maybe some from Wake Forest, but for the most part, if Clemson does due diligence and has decent enough quarterback play, we should be seeing them in the top 4 at the end of the year.
Well, last year they finished at 10-3, 6-2 in the ACC. So not bad positioning, but when you're used to them being the number 1 contender that you can say for Alabama year after year, they did kind of, fall off if you try to compare those seasons, back when they won the national championship. But all right, so a strong number 4 with Clemson. And then I think you're going to want to be on this one for a while. I believe this is your squad right here. Like you said, your B side to your Texas Longhorns A side.
Yeah. So here we go with Ohio State. What I expect to be the best offense in the country. Quarterback CJ Stroud had a great freshman season and should be in the Heisman contention at season's end. Running back Travion Henderson might be the best running back in the country. Some would say maybe Texas Bijan Robinson would like to have a word, but I think what I saw from Travion Henderson, I think he will be in the best offense. Therefore, he'll have the potential to be the better running back with the play selection that they're going to be doing. They did lose 2 receivers in Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson, first round picks, one to the Saints, one to the Jets. But the receiving room was already crowded there. They got Jackson Smith and Jigba. We saw him in the Rose Bowl game last year. I think he put up like 4 or 5 touchdowns in one game. Had like some crazy stat, like 200 yards.
Funny story about that. COVID hit me. And
I saw the game because of COVID.
Yeah, and I remember that was one of those games where I was just in the room by myself yelling at the TV because the game was incredible. Where they were going back and forth, and it was insane to watch. I felt like shit, but it was fun.
Insane
to watch.
Game offensively.
Yeah, it was my little soup and my meds all stuffy, but hell of a game.
Yeah. So that receiver room was already crowded. I think if you look at Heisman's, it always kind of does go to the quarterback for the most part these past years. But we had like Devontae Smith winning it 2 years ago. Jackson Smith and Jigba might have a case at the end of the year in the Heisman race as well, if projections continue. So that's something to look at. Now, O-line, they are anchored by Paris Johnson Jr. He's probably the best tackle in college football right now. And on defensive end, they have Zach Harrison returning for his senior year. And they got Denzel Burke, who made quite a bit of plays at cornerback. This Ohio State team, the thing that keeps stopping them is never the offense. It's always the question marks at defense. So if they got a little bit better, we can probably see them in the as long as they beat Michigan in the top 4 at the end of the year. But offensively, there's no problem there. They're going to score a lot of points. And the big test comes week 1 right away because they got Notre Dame week 1.
Yes, I've been hearing a lot of hype on that game. Luckily, I get out of work about 12 now, so I think the game's early in the afternoon, prime time. I think like 2, 3 o'clock. So I'm definitely going to be watching that game. Your boys, the Buckeyes, finished last year 11-2 overall, 8-1 in the conference. So they were still up there with Michigan.
It's just that Michigan loss that stopped them.
Michigan,
and then the Oregon loss early in the season.
Yeah, 6-1 at home and 4-1 away. Solid squad at your number 3. If you're at number 3, I mean that's number 1 to a lot of teams because these next 2 teams you're going to talk about are just going to be there or have been there. So maybe that's why they created that playoffs because it was always going to be Bama and it was always going to be Bama. So now schools like Ohio State, Clemson, you can see those in there. But number 3 is almost number 1, but not quite. So round up the top 2, man.
All right, let's move on to the SEC East with Georgia. Georgia's coming off winning the Natty. They had what some consider the best defense of all time in college football, maybe the fastest defense of all time in college football. Georgia has implemented the old Alabama plan where they replicated Alabama style. Really strong defenses, somewhat okay offense with a game manager at quarterback. They're going to try to implement that again this season. They have reloaded on defense a little bit. They have the best tight ends in the country. They got 3 tight ends that could probably see some time in the NFL. It is the best assembly of talent at the tight end position in a team in the college football. They are returning Stetson Bennett at quarterback. To me, he's a little bit undersized still, but like I said, he's got enough arm talent that he can game manage and win games. So I expect them to not be in this top 4 at the end of the year because they don't have to see Alabama but one time a year, and that's when they play in the SEC championship game. Throughout the regular season schedule, they don't see Alabama at all. So look out for Georgia to be in that top 4 by the end of the year. I think they'll stay in there, even though they lost some of that defense.
If you're saying that they're stacked at the tight end position, if you're a top tight end in the nation, which is, the only reason that you're going to go to these schools, how can you say, yeah, coach, I want to go play for you, if you have another top tight end there from across the nation, or even two. I mean, knowing that you're going to go into it with 2 or 3 other guys at the tight end position, which isn't a very popular position. Usually the running backs, there's always competition there. Wide receivers, I mean, in college, they're a dime a dozen. So if you're a tight end, Justin, and the coach says, hey, come play for me at Ohio State, but I got 2 other studs that are going to be in front of you or are not competing, why do you still say yes? Just because it's Ohio State? Just because you want to get that
you would say no to Ohio State, but to a Georgia you say yes, and here's why.
Sorry. Yeah, Georgia.
They run 2 set tight end offenses, so they have 2 tight ends on offense at all times anyway. So you would say yes to a pro style team like Georgia.
All right. Okay.
Yeah, but for Ohio State, they do have pretty good tight ends usually, but it's just one at a time that's on offense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right, let's get to number 1.
That's last but certainly not least.
Yes, King Saban's still there. You got to put Alabama at 1. You got Bryce Young off his Heisman performance. You got Will Anderson coming back. Alabama did lose their receiving core. J-Mo Williams off to the Lions. John Mechie.
Mm-hmm.
Hope he gets over that cancer, man. He's at the Texans now. He's going to be out for the year. So they did lose that awesome receiving core. But if you have faith in one guy to make things happen at one place, it's going to be Nick Saban. You have to start off Alabama at number 1 by default almost, because you've seen, when does Nick Saban have an off year? You tell me. When is he not competing, contending?
Never.
Ever. So let's put Bama at 1 to roll. I think they'll be in the top 4 spots as well at the end of the year. You'll probably see 2 SEC teams again in the top 4 like last year, contending for that national playoff title.
Nice, man. So that was your top 5. Alabama at the top, followed by Georgia, Ohio State, Clemson, and Texas A&M. Anything you want to say on the bottom 6 teams, which are Utah?
Yes,
Michigan,
I do want to talk about
Baylor, Oklahoma,
who's at risk,
and Notre Dame.
Who's at risk off of week 1, leaving my top 10? You got Utah and Florida. That's a big matchup because Florida fans are expecting Anthony Richardson at quarterback to take the next step and to be in that top 10 for Florida. They expect to be contenders. Florida is somewhat of a dark horse for me this year. They're not in the top 10. They're not in the top 15 as it stands. But if they continue to make that progress, we could possibly see them in the top 10. Utah has them week 1 at Gainesville, at the Swamp.
Oof. Tell
me when you've seen a Utah team play well at an SEC stadium where it's humid, where there's factors at play that you don't see in Utah. Now, we saw Utah's offense make a big step last year in that Rose Bowl with Cam Rising and those boys. It's going to be the overs in that game. It's going to be a shootout. Anthony Richardson needs to go off at quarterback. He's going to have himself like 100 yards rushing himself at quarterback with 200-300 yards passing. He's the offense for Florida. Watch out for Florida, though. Utah is my asterisk on this top 10 where I could see them falling off this top 10 list. Secondly goes to Notre Dame. They're coming in at 17.5 underdogs to Ohio State week 1. So we can see a lot of shakeup in this top 10 by next week, Ron.
I actually saw that storyline. They asked the coach and he noted it down and he actually wrote it 17.5 and he said he was going to post it in the locker room to give the players motivation. But on the Florida note, I'm glad you hyped up the quarterback because we do talk about predictions and bets here. So yes, my Heisman at a long shot, I don't know exactly what the odds are, but the quarterback Richardson from Florida to win the Heisman is definitely worth a sprinkle. And I'm going to sprinkle on him. And I'm going to sprinkle on him now because just like you said, if he shows out week 1 at that Utah game, those odds are going to drop tremendously. So you need to get it in before. Do they play this Saturday? Yes, they play Utah this Saturday. That's what I'm saying. The Heisman race starts week 1 this year. Gotcha, it's going to be awesome. So you heard it here first. Sprinkle a little bit. Richardson, Heisman, Florida Gators is the play. Put it on. Watch it. Ride it all season. And hopefully at the end of the year, you cash out big. And Justin, for your Heisman sprinkles here, you got 3 potential players. Go ahead and read us through, man. So, like I was mentioning earlier, Heisman kind of belongs to the quarterback as of late. These are my 3 sprinkles, preseason sprinkles.
Number 1, CJ Stroud, Ohio State quarterback. Expect him to have something like 4,000 yards by the end of the year. This kid can really air out the ball. He was in a quarterback room with, the new quarterback for Texas, Quinn Ewers. He beat him out. This is the guy they're rolling with. You got Caleb Williams, a transfer to USC, ex-Oklahoma quarterback. We saw what he did with Oklahoma when his coach pretty much had already quit on them over there. So expect him now to be at USC, where he doesn't have a lot of trouble with these Pac-12 defenses. I expect him to excel. He's worth the sprinkle. And lastly, Bryce Young. It is hard to win the Heisman twice. Well, when you're in that Alabama offense with that style of play that they're doing now, where they're passing the ball, airing it out more, you would have to think with the wins they get, it's a shot between him and real long shot, of course, would be the linebacker from Alabama. That's a real long shot. That's why he's not on this list. But we could potentially see Will Anderson with a maybe long shot. Maybe just worth a $5 sprinkle, real light.
Well, I mean, in your defense, we don't really see Heisman trophies go to
on the defense.
On the defensive side.
It's been so long. I think we only have like one in history.
Yeah, one player, which was the D-back from Michigan. Correct?
Desmond Howard.
Yeah, Desmond Howard. I was watching the Untold Netflix story on Manti Te'o, and it was crazy seeing him up there, knowing that he had the potential to be.
He was there that Saturday night. He was up there, yeah. So that's why I'm saying.
Yeah, Josh Lene Cacao,
Manti's girlfriend. That's why I'm saying Will Anderson. There's some hype around him. I'm not saying we're gonna see him at that Heisman ceremony, but it's still worth a $5 sprinkle because the odds on the return are gotta be ridiculous. Yes, so what? You don't need a hamburger for the weekend. You throw it on Will Anderson, and maybe you have a Christmas surprise. Who knows? It's college football at the end of the day.
Anthony Richardson plus 4,000. I found the number. Plus,
I like that number for him. He's going to be their whole offense pretty much at Florida. So look forward to that.
Did you leave the other stats up here about what you did, and we didn't talk about it?
No, I didn't.
We were lazy.
So week 0, we were supposed to come out with this list, but that's okay. We didn't. I gave away 2 plays. They ended up cashing.
They cashed, man.
I gave them to Josh though, so hopefully Josh played them. I did tell him personally which ones to play.
All right, but yeah, so that was it, man. Justin, I mean, you killed it, bro. I mean, you gave us a hell of a synopsis. You like that one? You gave us a hell of a synopsis on the top.
You in that dictionary, Ron. You got those $5 words that I can't afford those words.
Before we go, I have to give you not a headline, but a previous headline because of your passion for the Texas Longhorns. What do you think about Mr. Mini Manning and the potential to be the savior of the Texas Longhorn football program?
Well, I mean, I hope he's not, first off.
Really?
Because we got Quinn Ewers, who was the number 1 recruit last year, transferred from Ohio State to Texas. I hope he's ready to go now. I hope we don't have to wait a whole year to figure it out. I hope we're on point this year. But I would like to see something over 7 wins for this year. I don't want to have to wait for Manning to come through for us.
But do you think that the hype is real? Is that somebody who you would say, hey, no, I want that kid there? Or you just want the best quarterback possible?
No, you want a good quarterback room because, I mean, we've seen quarterbacks go down and you want to have, continuity. So a guy like Archer Manning can take the fold from there, and we've seen that happen with other quarterback rooms. We had the Major Applewhite, Chris Sims situation. We're not sure who to start. They were battling it out. So you want to have a deep quarterback room. It's never a problem when you have depth.
All right. So hope you guys like this little college edition. Besides the NFL, we will be covering college football throughout the entire year.
Yeah, I'll keep coming with these top 10s, and they're going to look different than everyone else's standard ESPN top 10s.
If college football had fantasy, we would do that too, but unfortunately they don't just yet. You never know though. But
might be onto something though. Invent it.
Hey, you fucking heard it here first. Hey, but thank you for watching this, for kicking with us. Please share, like, share, like, and comment. We appreciate all the love. Thanks again. And for Justin, for myself, and for Ben and Roland, we never forget the other boys on the squad. Thank you. We appreciate all the love. And Justin, you can go ahead and lead us out, man.
Signing out.